Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the significance of the full lunar eclipse falling on the same day as the US midterm elections and why I think women will come out in record numbers, highlighting the issue of reproductive rights and why there is no coincidence that the full lunar eclipse is happening on the same day as the US midterm elections. I'm also going to look at the female archetype planets of Venus and Moon and looking at their condition and the placement in these charts. So looking at the center wheel, we have the US natal chart, which is the Sibley chart of the United States. And the outer wheel, we have the full lunar eclipse. Now, what's incredible about this is we have Moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus in the sixth house. Now, when we're talking about mundane astrology, we can leave the sixth house to be related to public health and medical services. So it's mind-blowing how we have this conjunction of Moon, Uranus in the sixth house, highlighting medical services and reproductive rights, closely conjunct Uranus. So Uranus really playing into that massive shakeup of the overturning of Roe versus Wade and really throwing away a 50-year precedent. And we have the Moon, its condition, we have it exalted in Taurus. So I think in this election, you're going to have a very strong voice and a very strong outcome of women coming out in large, and I think in record numbers, which we probably will never have seen, especially even if we look at the 2018 to the 2020 election. This is going to be highly significant falling on the same day. Now, to compound matters, if we look at, again, the 6-12 axis with health and hospitalization, we have Mercury also in the fold, and Mercury is in a special place, which is Cazimi. So Mercury being at the heart of the sun, Cazimi is a special place where Mercury is amplified. So particularly in this election and particularly for women, their voice is going to be strongly felt there and reverberate throughout this election. And Cazimi with Mercury in the heart of the sun just compounds this matter. And of course, we have this in the sign of fixed water. So there's really no budging here between the anger and that Martian feel of many women coming out against these draconian and extreme theocratic measures from the Supreme Court. And again, to compound this, we have Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, which is in mutual reception with Mars in Gemini in the current transits. So really, and in this it's a little bit wide, but in this aspect, it's a bit of a quincunx, although it's a little bit wide. But with the mutual reception of Mercury and Mars, it's really speaking to the anger of many women of being stripped away of rights that have been a precedent for 5 decades or so. So it's really highlighting, and again, this in the US Sibley chart, the 6-12 house axis, and it's really, for me, no coincidence that it's fallen in these two houses of the United States natal chart. Now, if we want to take a look at Venus in this particular area against the sun, so Venus is not happy. She's in the 12th house, she's in detriment in Scorpio. So Venus in Scorpio is not particularly happy and combust by the sun. So in the beams of the sun, in combustion. So Venus is really taking a battering here in the 12th house of this full lunar eclipse. So it's really highlighting, again, the two archetypal planets of Venus and Moon, and again here in opposition. So for me, Venus in the 12th house and detriment, it's to me speaking of women being stripped away of these reproductive rights and the anger that's going to come from this. And I think even the polls are going to underestimate the power of women's voice coming out in this election. Now, of course, not all women are going to be for, reproductive. There are polarizations in this thing, but really the majority of women, or at least a plurality, are going to be against the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And I think there's going to be an outsized voice in this particular election looking at the astrological indicators. So again, Mercury, Cazimi, we have Venus not very happy in this position. We've got obviously the opposition. So you've got the Venus-Uranus opposition, the Mercury in a tight opposition with Uranus and Moon. So it's really just compounding these polarizing elements and just this tension and this anger amongst many women in the United States. And we compound this too by, if we take around 10-degree orbs for the total lunar eclipse, let's take the moon of the natal chart of the United States. Now, moon in mundane astrology very much relates to the people, or the common people in quotes, but particularly for representing women. So the moon in the US Sibley chart is at 27 degrees Aquarius, and we're making quite a wide, but it's still involved in a T-square with this total lunar eclipse. So we see here sun, moon, 16. We're a little bit out of the 10-degree orb, but I think it's significant enough that we can include it, all in fixed signs. So we've got the fixed Scorpio, these deep running waters, again, the mutual reception between Mercury and Mars, the anger that's coming out, fixed Earth, and then, of course, in the natal chart of the United States, we have fixed air. So these fixed qualities coming together in a T-square is really just compounding this tension at this particular time, and why the power of this lunar eclipse is going to be very, very significant, I think. And of course, many people speak to solar eclipses, but certainly pay attention to lunar eclipses, because they are just as powerful. So really bringing in, again, the female archetypes. Again, the Venus, we've got the moon, and the moon again in the natal chart, all in these hard, in this T-square aspect, really speaking to the tension here, and the anger that's going to be shown when people come out to vote on Tuesday. Now, interestingly as well, we have, if we look at the US Sibley chart, we have Neptune 22 Virgo in partile opposition with, we can look at this as transits as well, so transits on Tuesday, partile opposition to Neptune in Pisces. Now, you can't get any closer to that. Neptune right now is in retrograde, so it's moving towards, it's the applying opposition to natal Neptune. So talking about polarization, you can't really get more polarized. I mean, Neptune, we're talking about idealism, we're talking about the ideas, or the what people are thinking in terms of political polarization, where you really have two opposing ideals opposing each other and going against one another, where people see, or where people want the United States to move forward with. Now, to compound this as well, we have the natal Mars and transiting Mars as well, and particularly the natal Mars of the US Sibley chart, again here in a T-square with Neptune. So we've got Mars at 21 Gemini, square which is a natal square anyway, applying square to natal Neptune. But now we have the transiting Neptune at 22. So really, if we look against this really is a tight T-square between these two polarizing ideals for where people want the United States to go, and Mars as the part of the T-square really drumming up that anger. And in Mercury's sign, it's really people are going to be coming out and really voicing their opinions, as they have been doing for the last couple of months. So really, it's just, again, compounding this total lunar eclipse and the T-square between the Sun, Cazimi, Mercury, Moon, natal Moon, and then, of course, the Neptune opposition, the T-square with Mars. All these hard, difficult aspects really is building up this tension. And, we've got the waxing moon right now. So people are feeling, you probably at home are feeling that the tension in the air. I mean, not only is it the election, it's not just about reproductive rights, it's about many other issues as well. But this is really for women in particular, and the archetypal planets coming up. This is going to be an issue that really comes to the forefront. And again, you're going to see record turnout. Now, why I think women will come out strongly opposed to Roe versus Wade is, again, I want to come back to the condition of the moon, which is exalted in Taurus. So really, this speaks to me as women having a strong voice in this election, and you bring in Mercury in the mix and the mutual reception with Mars. The exalted moon for me is the exalted position of women in this particular election, and how they're going to outstrip men in their votes. Now, I think women I think since the 1980s in the United States have outpaced men in terms of voting. But in this particular election, even compared to 2018 or to 2020, again, you're going to see record turnout. And I think we could also bring into play the younger generation. So Gen Z, what are the other generations? Millennials, all the younger generations are going to come up, and without a degree with a degree of certainty, you can never say certainly in astrology, but I've got a strong feeling that this will be a record turnout, and the record books will show this come Tuesday. So to reinforce these themes, we're going to bring in the solar return of the United States for this year. So looking at these charts, we have the solar return in the inner wheel, and we have the natal chart of the United States in the outer wheel. And it really is just amazingly compounding the themes of this full lunar eclipse, which is coming up. So again, talking about the archetypal planets for the female energy, we're looking here at the solar return. So we've got the ascendant at 25, Gemini, which again, Mercury sign. It really is a year where people are voicing their opinions. We have Mars loosely conjunct the solar return ascendant from the natal chart. So again, just firing up people to come out and to voice their opinions. Now, why again the issue of reproductive rights are going to come up in this election is we have the archetypes. We have Venus here in an outer sign conjunction with the solar return ascendant. So we've got 3 degrees of Cancer. So what we're about 8 degrees out, but we are in the natal chart here conjunct the solar return ascendant. Now look at Venus conjunct the solar return Mercury. So again, just compounding, voicing opinions, female opinions in the sign of Cancer. So that Cancerian tribalism, or more of a sense of that motherly or reproductive health, this is really coming to the forefront. And again, having that Venus Mercury conjunction in the solar return, it really is just amplifying this full lunar eclipse, and women again will come out in record numbers. Now, taking a look again at the moon, we've got the solar return moon at 22 Virgo, which again is in Mercury's sign. So it's a part of that mercurial election time to come out and voice opinions. And look how tight the solar return moon is to the natal chart, Neptune of the United States, again at 22 degrees, and in opposition to the solar return Neptune within a few degrees. So we've got, again, this polarizing opposition. You've got women conjunct, this Neptunian feel of just not knowing where things are heading. They're thinking, we don't want to go back to the 1950s. We don't want to go and live in the world of Gilead, where we live in this draconian theocratic society, because we have moved on, from these very extremist right-wing religious viewpoints. And again, I think it's just amplifying this. And again, the polarizing, the Neptune oppositions, we've got the moon involved, these polarizing issues, and women are saying, we're not going to be pulled back into these extreme affairs where, we're getting pulled back. Again, Venus got here in the 12th house. We're not going to be pulled back into the back alleys, 12th house, behind the scenes. Venus there of the solar return in the 12th house. We're not going to go back to going into back alleys and, medical services being performed in really medieval ways, and just, again, this draconian sense of what's going on. So really, the solar return is really complementing and amplifying the total lunar eclipse on Tuesday. So again, let's go back to that Venus. So the solar return Venus, again, the solar return is in the center chart. We've got Venus in the 12th house here. And really, it's a little bit wide, but we can maybe look at the conjunction of the natal Mars. So again, just women being fired up, don't want to be in the 12th house, don't want to be hidden away. And Venus in the sign of Mercury, again, saying we're not going to be pulled back. We're going to make our voices heard. And we're not going to be held back here in the 12th house, where, again, we're going through back alleys or having to go through these very archaic procedures, or go from state to state, even to get basic medical care. So actually, let's take a look at that moon again. So again, the moon at 22 Virgo. We've got the quincunx here of moon, solar return moon, and solar return Saturn, and solar return Mars, which is a few degrees out. It looks like the same sign. It's an outer sign, quincunx, but it's still within about 8 degrees. So the moon in the solar return in the quincunx between, or forming this yard with the Mars and Saturn, again, it's just really putting together that females feel out of place. They are saying, we don't want, again, these draconian measures or the authorities to tell us what is going to be happening with us. And again, if we want to compound these matters, we've got the natal moon of the United States conjunct the solar return Saturn. So again, that restriction of politicians or authority pulling on women's rights. So you just see this whole collection here of all these female archetype planets, just all in difficult houses, difficult positions, difficult aspects, with the solar return and the full lunar eclipse falling on the United States natal chart. So it's really, again, in astrology, you're looking not just for one or two aspects, but for confirmations, compounding information that certain issues are coming to the forefront. And really, for me, it's what gets me. I've lived in the United States here for quite a while. It's the hypocrisy of this right-wing idea that, okay, keep the government out of our business. And I can understand that to a certain degree, keep government out of our lives. But the hypocrisy blows my mind, where they're saying, okay, keep government out of our lives, but hey, we're going to go into your bedroom and we're going to go and tell women and take control of their bodies and tell them what to do, which is absolutely mind-blowing, considering their rhetoric on, government, or government is too big. So it's just the utter nonsense and the bullshit, essentially, and the hypocrisy of these politicians to say, get out of our lives, but yet they want to in place draconian measures and really turn the United States into Gilead. Now, obviously, I'm looking through these charts in a particular political lens. So obviously, taking that into account, we all have biases, we all have different lenses that we look through, but being as objective as possible, really, again, these compounding, aspects, these compounding measures of these archetypal planets, all in these difficult aspects, in these positions, in these houses. And again, going back to the total lunar eclipse, really highlighting the 6th, 12th house axis of public health, medical services, the 12th houses of hospitalization, and really, really focusing in this total lunar eclipse to the female archetypes who are really coming up into positions of power. So I think, definitely, just to reiterate, we are definitely going to see record-breaking numbers of women coming out, even possibly record-breaking numbers between the younger generations coming out. Not just women, I think many men will speak out against this as well. Now, this is not a prediction per se for the outcome of the midterm elections. There are so many charts to go through. It's easier when you have two presidential candidates running against each other, as I did with my Trump versus Biden video. But with so many House races and Senate races, that's so many charts to look through. But what I can say with almost certainty is that this issue of reproductive health and rights is going to come to the forefront with this particular election. Again, there's no coincidence that the full lunar eclipse falls on the same day as the US midterms elections. And can this also speak to, other places in the world? In Iran, you've got women speaking out, burning their hijabs and burning their head scarves, and really coming out against, again, more authoritarian, draconian measures of government. So this not just speaks to the United States. I think this energy is pulling in for other countries around the world, where a lot of women saying, hey, we're not going to go back. We're going to progress and we're going to move forward. So that is just my short analysis. I've not gone too deep into too many other charts. Sometimes I'll bring up secondary progression, solar arcs, etc. But as we're close to the Tuesday's elections, I thought it might be interesting to pull these charts out. And again, as I keep saying, women will come out in record numbers, and in many races will sway the elections in many House races and in many swing states. So thank you all for tuning in, and have a wonderful weekend.